So one of the goals of the WORKPRIS project is to share experiences, knowledges, good practices, and I think this is a good opportunity for me now to introduce our keynote speaker. Mr. Stanislav Solodov is from Ministry of Justice and Digital Affairs of Estonia, and he will be talking about supporting young offenders in their reintegration and reducing reoffending. This is the Estonian example of partnership between the state and a non-profit, so TSO, organizations. So, Mr. Solodov, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I hope you hear me as well. I'm now going in a few seconds to share my screen with you. Just a few words about myself. I previously worked in prison for 6 years before joining the Ministry of Justice and Digital Affairs in 2015. And I have that kind of a joke of myself that I started to implement a re-entry project in the ministry. And I was kind of, if the project was called a re-entry project, I kind of re-entered a society as well. So coming from a prison service as a job position to a job position to a society at the ministry. So I will mention a little bit this project today as well. But now I will go to my presentation. Okay, just a few words for the context for you about Estonia. A few numbers. You see that in recent years we've been in decline regarding the criminal registered crimes and registered misdemeanors committed by minors, for instance, and by youngsters. But also we are in decline regarding our prison population and people on probation. Just for you to know where we are regarding our numbers. We are a relatively small country, 1.37 million, and in Estonia the minimum age of criminal responsibility is 14, and we have a definition in our law which is a young adult, who is a person who is between the ages of 18 up to 21. I know that some countries have something similar, but some other countries don't have such thing as a young adult in the law as a definition. So the question of why is important one. Why do we need to support people who are coming out of prison or people who are committed crimes but are waiting basically whether they get a prison sentence or they do not get prison sentence? And if you ask such a person who has broken the law, what are your thoughts, for instance? What are your thoughts about your future? What are you going to do? How do you see yourself in the future? Or, for instance, if a person is in prison and he is in the last last weeks or maybe months of his prison sentence and is starting to coming out. When you just talk to such a prisoner about the future, what do you hear as an answer? Do they talk about their needs? Do they talk about what is going to happen after the prison sentence? Where are they going to have a job, or where are they going to live? Of course, it depends on how you ask, and more importantly, it depends on how you listen to a person. But in my experience working from prison and also implementing those projects is that not all, so to say, an average person will tell you a story, something related to, like in the picture here, that it's kind of driving a bicycle on Sunday morning to a happy and successful life. So it's like kind of, I have a plan. I have everything under control. But what they do not talk to you about is a reality. it's the picture which is below here, and the question of why do we need to support is actually the picture below here is the answer, because they don't talk about such things. In prison, they don't like to talk to you about I don't know, they can talk about their dreams, but whether they are real dreams or they are dreams in their fantasy world. So this is something that is actually happening to people who are in the cycle of criminality, who are there maybe for years, being in prison for many times, not just once. And it doesn't even, there is no difference whether it's a young person or an older one. Maybe there are some differences, of course, regarding this picture below. But all in all, in Estonian experience, even if you are a younger one, then you have quite many those obstacles which are here on the picture. So a lot of things to do on the road out of criminal behavior. And you see also the volcano after the happiness and successful kind of a stage in your life, which is also actually an important thing there, because there can be a setbacks at whatever moments in your life, and it's really typical for drug abusers, for instance. If you feel yourself kind of, I've been out of drugs for a few years, and then something happens in your life, something negative, then the volcano starts to burst again, the fire. And we have to be aware of that, just to be aware of that. And because of those why questions and why do we need to support, we started a project in 2015 that now is ended. We have now an ongoing project which is more for young offenders up to the age of 29, and we provide mentoring and accommodation with support. And if we look at the target group, then basically all people who have come to the criminal justice system can have a mentor support or accommodation with support services. Also, of course, including, for instance, for prison leavers on conditional release and also on electronic monitoring, people can be in our halfway houses. And how we do it in Estonia, we as a ministry conducted a public procurement to find the service providers. So open tenders for everyone, and we have really good partnerships with NGOs in Estonia regarding providing these services. The question of what is our goal regarding those interventions in the community, and if we look at the short-term or long-term goal, we have to talk about the sisters and persisters. Because we do not believe in Estonia here that if you've been walking in the wrong direction for years, it's impossible to make a return in months. It's something that is that we understand also at the ministry when we do and design those public procurement documents. It's not something that we tell NGOs. We give you a person from prison, but please give us a law-abiding citizen in 3 months. It's impossible. It doesn't work like that. And why it's impossible? It's because of the attitude of a person. We know the attitude. We saw the picture that I showed you on previous slides. We know all the obstacles on the road. And a person can be kind of an attitude that I take responsibility for my actions, what I did before, or I blame only others. And if you blame only others, changing your attitudes will take time. It doesn't happen in 3 months, for instance. Whether the attitude is that I can be a better person, I can just be a better man or a woman, or I am used to be an offender. I am used to be like that. Me versus all the others in society. And then action or distraction, it's also kind of do I actually do something myself on the way out of crime, or I only search for distraction moments, kind of, pointing fingers to the left and right and saying that I cannot do anything because, the society is not letting me, or the job provider is a bad one, and everything, only kind of showing fingers to everyone else. And the picture here is showing that, of course, it's a logical one, that the way we think, what's happening in our minds, have an impact on our behavior, and our behavior, of course, have consequences. So that's why we here in Estonia, in this project, we have designed the both of the services for a long-term opportunity for people to change their lives. If you talk about mentoring, then we have designed that kind of a 6 + 12 months model, that we say that if a person is in prison, then building the bridge starts 6 months before the release, and then it goes on after the release. And just in short, is that mentor is an adult whom a young person can trust, or whether it's young or not young, whatever, a person can trust. So it's really about the working alliance between two people, having, this post-release plan, also thinking about plan B. What happens if I do not get a job in 2 months, for instance, after release? What do I do then? So mentor is a person who you can trust, who listens to you, advises you, motivates you, etc. And in Estonia, we have an NGO which provides the service all over the country. In our previous project, I had 2 NGOs providing the service all over the country. So in this project, there is one. And they're all trained, of course, by the NGO to work with people with criminal background. The housing service has to be a small scale. It has to have also, of course, a working alliance is an important one, but it has to be more as a family, so to say. If a person comes to the halfway house, it all starts from day one. How you treat a person, how you say to a person hello from day one. That is really important, and that is something that those NGOs themselves say, that if you do not kind of take the person as a family member, it's really hard to work with them later on. And of course, there is a structural program, because the discipline and values has to be there. It's not something that you take your things and put them something near the bed, and then you kind of plan yourself how you see yourself in this halfway house. It's a structural program. It's about relationships and taking responsibilities. And it has a day-to-day counseling on different issues, again, regarding the picture I showed you on the second slide. And we have a really good partner in Estonia. They call themselves a Village of Hope. And they have more than 20 years working experience. And this little scheme here below, you see that it's not maybe always like that, but in most of the cases, it's like that at least half of the year can be a period where people are, like in the doubt. Should I be here or should I go? And then later on, after 6 months, they start to develop, and the more they are getting the support service, the more they are experiencing change in their values and attitudes, and then they see that it really helps. Just a few numbers regarding our outcome results. They are mainly about the previous project that I mentioned, this re-entry services for ex-offenders. And the reason is that our ongoing project is still only a few years into implementation. We don't have those numbers. But 2 important things to mention is that we had a study in 2020, and we had a reference group in the study that we could compare our results. And two main things. Compared to the reference group, the people who got support services were more involved in the labor market after the support services. And the other positive impact was about reduced reoffending rates, but it only showed positive results after people were on halfway house service for at least 9 months. So before that, there was no significant decline in the reoffending rate. So for us, it was kind of an easy conclusion, is that change doesn't happen overnight. And about those challenges and learning elements during those years that we are implementing now, I am kind of 10 years into this, into those projects, is that trust the process that you are leading. It's not the same as we started 10 years ago. When we started, the most critical people towards this project were prison officers, prison staff were the most critical one. They did not see the purpose and the need for such mentoring and halfway house services. But after a few years, the picture started to change. So you have just, go with your agenda, do your thing that you believe in, and then the process will kind of lead to a good results, to changes. Our NGOs that we have now been in partnerships for 10 years are really highly motivated. For at least in Estonia, it's a really good and positive experience for me, because I see that they have a big heart for that. They have less bureaucracy, it's something that NGOs are always, I think, ahead of a state or a municipality. They are more flexible, and they are, and I'm really saying that, they are impressively good at working with people. I think that they are much more better than people on a governmental or a municipal level. Of course, it depends on the service we are talking about. We are talking about here working with people with criminal background. That's what I'm talking about, not, like in general, of course. The impact is difficult to measure. I showed you some numbers, but you have to look behind the numbers, because, numbers can show you something, but when you hear real stories, you see real people. And I've seen, like, I don't know, more than 10 or 20 people in those halfway houses changing their lives. That is change that I really value. And this is not just, like a numbers. For a few years, I had a question in my head that those questions were for me, like when I started this position at the ministry, that what could be the perfect service? How can we design a perfect service for people leaving the prison institution? After a few years, I got the answer. There is no perfect service. We can just provide opportunities, because, people need different things, and we have different service providers so that people can choose whether I like more, like Village of Hope, or I like more the other NGO. For people, there is no perfect service, and also for us, it's really hard to provide one. To reshape those attitudes and those questions of why do we need to support, it's not something that you do once at the start of the project and maybe do the second time at the end of the project after 8 years. It's something that you have to do all the time. Like, all the time. And we started the project for a few first years. I went to all the prisons every 3 months with those NGOs, 6 NGOs on board. We went to all the prisons to talk about our services. So at least 4 times a year, sometimes even more. Because we saw that we have to be visible to them, we have to tell the stories, we have to share everything that we have got so far on this road. And then they start to believe. I think that worked. And this success stories versus experience stories, at least on a governmental level, if there is a person who has changed his life or her life, we don't call it a success story because we don't know when or whether this success story become a not so success story. We call it an experience story. But if a person himself, for instance, says that, for me, I am a successful one, then of course we are happy about it. The person himself can say that, but on a governmental level, we try to use a terminology experience stories. And regarding the project management, I've been a project manager now for 10 years, in this previous project for 8, and now in my new project for 2 years. I see it more as a network management, not just sitting behind my table and like sending an emails, but going to the places where those things happen, going to those halfway houses, going to prisons, going to the probation, inviting people to visit those halfway houses. We have now, for a 4th year in a row, we have seminars together with judges and prosecutors, going to those halfway houses, showing where the things are happening, where they are sending those people out of prison or as an alternative to imprisonment. And of course talking about good and not so good things also, like the practical stuff that is happening. And just for inspiration that I also want to share, and I also get inspiration from those events, that when I have an opportunity to do something together with those people who are getting support services, and that is a big value for me. Here is me and one of the youngsters from Village of Hope. We were presenting together basically about the same topic as today, but he shared his own story. So we were sharing the stage. I was talking something about the re-entry services, and then he shared his story. And for me, it's a big value. And also it's a value for a specialist, usually, who hear those stories. And then doing something together also, kind of, on a free time. I was recently a goalkeeper in a football team together that we played at the tournament with those youngsters from Village of Hope. And it is also something that I really like, that if I have a hobby, which is a football, and I have an opportunity to participate with them, so we had like kind of a half of the Saturday, we went out to play, and we had a nice talk and everything. We shared the same field. It's also value for me because I somehow then understand them better, how they think, what they do, and so on. Just a few pictures for ending my presentation from Village of Hope. This is Village of Hope in Estonia, and this is also a halfway house in some other region, and this is also a halfway house in the eastern side in Estonia. Thank you very much. I hope that I did not take too much time, and I will now stop the screen sharing, I think. Yeah.